Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Wattu from San Jose, California. In today's show, we'll talk about technology and innovation trends for mobile network industry in India and South Asia markets. We are fortunate to have Randeep Singh Sekhon as our guest today. Randeep is Chief Technology Officer at Bharti Airtel. Airtel is among the top three mobile service providers globally in terms of number of subscribers. Before Airtel, Randeep was Chief Executive Officer of Hutchison Try Indonesia based in Jakarta. Randeep brings 28 plus years of rich industry experience. So without any further delay, let's go and talk to Randeep and learn from his insights. Hello Randeep, welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
Hi Faisal, I'm good. How are you today?
Good, good. Thanks for joining. So Randeep, what are some of the key strategic priorities for Airtel in next few years? Which new technologies and use cases you are envisioning for your customers in India and South Asia?
Uh, First of all, the listeners, it's happy to be here. And those who don't know, India is a fiercely contested market where largely now the market is between two players, and the technology and the experience upmanship is being played out every month, every day, and to win the confidence of the customers. On network side, we have two priorities which has stayed over for last 4 5 years. Is the experience leadership, which means the experience of using our services, whichever services we are. We are in all services. We are in services of mobile telephony, which is using 4G and 5G technologies. We are in broadband, which is using fiber and FWA as well. We are in DTH, which is direct to home technology for entertainment purpose. So customer can use any of these services. We always strive to give him the best experience. Hence, experience leadership is one of our key pillars, and that has stayed for many years. The second pillar we have in our strategy is cost leadership. In a market where the ARPUs are hovering around $3, you cannot have the luxury of spending a lot of money to create the product or the service experience. So you have to always balance these two between cost leadership and experience leadership. And these has been our strategies going forward. Of course, new services get launched and our approach changes, our use of technology changes, but eventually the pillars remain the same: best in class experience and cost leadership.
And Randeep, as you know, we're all living in AI age right now, and AI is impacting pretty much every industry. Which opportunities Airtel is seeing with AI? In other words, how do you plan to add more value to your customers using AI?
I think there are two parts of it. Is are we enabling some AI services? We are into data center business where under Nextra, which is our company where we do data centers, there are a lot of companies who want to set up data centers for AI services. We'll be hosting that services in our data centers and provide connectivity to those data centers. So this is more like a B2B or enterprise service. But within Airtel, AI is also being seen as a big leverage for our future. Based on the two pillars I talked about, AI is actually used in everything. Let me give you 4 5 pillars where we are using AI. First is uh, OPEX. OPEX is the cost of running a network. I give you one example. When the networks are not being used, which is in night or lean hours for commercial locations, we tend to shut down the network capacity so that we can save on energy. This was being shut down using rules in previous years. But now that we are using AI and we are learning each and every cell, when the cell has low traffic and we can shut it down, and when the traffic comes back, we can bring it back. I can tell you our efficiency using AI algorithms of shutting down capacities in lean hours has doubled, which for a network of our size, which has 300,000 physical sites plus, our savings runs into millions of dollars every month. So just by tweaking the algorithm using AI, we could get more saving. Similarly, for experience, can you really track experience to really core and change network parameters on the go so that the experience can be improved? For example, there is, as you can see outside my window, it's very foggy today. So foggy means the traffic will run slow, which means some areas which generally the traffic is fast, the traffic will be slow and the mobile traffic also will be up. Can we on the fly change the algorithm to support a high traffic? This is what we are doing using algorithms, detecting a high requirement of mobile traffic and then changing algorithms and capacities to give high experience to the customers there. So this was not possible using machine learning or earlier tools, and it's possible using AI. On capex, the forecasting is very inaccurate or less accurate, if I may say. Traditionally, we have built, like I have been in mobile telephony since 1997, and we have been using Excel sheets to prorate how much traffic will come next year and build capex and networks accordingly. But with AI traffic forecasting algorithms, you can forecast really, really precisely with very high accuracy, which means your optimal use of your dollar to build networks is very sharp, and you can actually save on wastefulness. And other way, you can always provide the right capacity because you may be under projecting the capacity and you may be building less and hence having impact on experience. But we are also using internally AI. I want to give you more on it. For example, learning. Now, learning is one thing where you can go on to web and take any learning. You don't need to read a book nowadays. You can have a podcast like this one, or you could actually go to a YouTube, see a video about anything you want to learn. But then the sources are so many that it is very difficult to correlate and see which source should I read it from. What we have done is, using LLM models, we have put all the sources we had, which were manuals of the equipment we use from different OEMs, and the standard 3GPP standards, and the sources available through white papers, what others have done in research, put them all together and put into what is like a, you can say, like a metaverse kind of a thing for Airtel employees. And when they want to learn about something, like other day, one of my colleague wanted to learn about segment routing. So how do you want to learn? They will put onto that pod and say, I want to know about segment routing. It will help them with basics of segment routing. If they say, I want advanced, they can create a 5-day training program based on the sources we have for that. That was not possible earlier. And it is very amazing because when we were engineers, we had to read manuals and see and get the information what was there in the manual and not be aware that this information could be somewhere else also. So I think the learning has really accelerated using models like that. And then let's say creating mobs for changing a configuration, that was left to experts. And as we know, in today's world, human capital is so this thing, you may have an expert leaving, joining somewhere else, and the knowledge goes with that person. But you can use these tools to create mobs. How to create a mob to create a circuit or to configure a 5G cell, to do things like that. These are amazing possibilities which are now started to come our way using AI tools. And I think this is just getting started. We will be into a era where AI will help us to be even more efficient than what we are today.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing, Randeep. So, Randeep, as you might already know, that 6G standardization is happening right now. And whenever this generational change happens in cellular, it's also an opportunity for new use cases and new innovations. So, I wanted to ask you, what are your expectations from 6G with respect to the markets you are serving, like India and South Asia? How can 6G solve some of the problems of these markets?
Well, I am in a very different camp as far as 6G is concerned, and this is my personal view, not Airtel views, is that we have not even used even 10% of what 5G can offer. And we still have 5G advanced on the anvil. And if we really see from 4G to 5G transition, 5G has not changed the life of consumers like you and me. I mean, we are just getting faster speeds. And if you were in a market, you were getting faster speeds on 4G, then your life hasn't changed any at all, absolutely zero. So in markets like India, yes, things have changed because our 4G networks were not so, they were so heavily utilized that the speeds were slow. Moment 5G came in, the mobile usage has really gone up and people are able to use almost 200, 300 Mbps of service on their normal mobile phone. But actually, even if you want to watch a HD video in a live streaming, you don't need more than 10, 15 Mbps. So this 200 Mbps is like a overkill, but it just gives you cheaper capacity compared to 4G. If you look at use cases, which had been touted of mobile gaming, AR, VR, all those haven't yet played out. And even if it plays out in an indoor scenario. In an indoor scenario, there are technology like Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, which can give you equal, if not better, because they're backhaul using low latency fiber backhaul experience for a indoor AR VR experience than what you would get it on an outdoor 5G AR VR experience. So in my mind, there are things about 5G which are yet to be tested: low latency, high IoT, The red cap is yet to play out. We don't see so many red cap devices. So there is a long runway for 5G yet to be monetized. And if we look at markets, even if you look at markets like US or Europe, 5G is not ubiquitous. We all travel, we don't find 5G everywhere. It is still yet to be made as a ubiquitous G. Still 4G is the ubiquitous G. So I think there are times since 5G will become ubiquitous G, new use cases of using 5G will come in. Today, all use cases are 4G use cases, performing slightly better with 5G because of high speeds. So 6G, which tends to give you a 5G plus latency improvements or throughput gains, I don't see any use case which 6G will solve. So in my mind, 6G should be seen as a more like a industrial G, which will solve campus problems, which will solve maybe industrial campus, maybe a big factory. But it is not a G for a ubiquitous G, where we will cover like a country like America or India or China or Brazil with a ubiquitous 6G coverage. The 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 money spent on capex rollouts and the energy we will consume will not pay back for the gains or any efficiency we'll get. So I think we should see 6G as an evolution for some industrial use case, and we should, as telecom ecosystem, double down on getting the maximum juice out of the 5G, where the investments have gone in, developments already there, let it play out before thrusting the world into one more economic capex sucking cycle. I think that is where my personal belief is we need to spend our energies not creating new standard, but maximizing the impact of the standard we have with our hands, and it is almost ubiquitous.
Randeep, for the technologists, researchers, and entrepreneurs who are listening to you right now in Silicon Valley and globally, can you mention few gaps or innovation areas where these folks can work on and perhaps collaborate with you and other folks in India?
I think if I look at my previous question, the 5G potential is yet to be realized. In my mind, it's a trifecta. There are three things which we have in our hand. On one side, we have a technology like 5G, which is an access technology, but it can be coupled with fiber, can be coupled with Wi-Fi 6, in future Wi-Fi 7. So it's an access technology or connectivity technology. On the other side, we have IoT, which means so much of measurements we are getting from different connected devices, and we are getting measurements from network. We are now having a world where network is seen as a platform, and it's called NAS, network as a service. You can do a API integration and get a lot of information from the network using a very simple, it could be a GSMA, Kamara, or any other standard API, and you can get a query from the network from that. So you have rich sources of data which are coming to you through access technologies which I mentioned, through IoTs, which are here and now. It can be more. There could be connected cars, smart cities, smart buildings, smart home. There could be body sensors you and me wear. There could be so many of such IoT. And the third pillar in my mind is cloud and analytics, where AI sits. So all this data through access is coming into a cloud. It could be edge cloud, it could be remote cloud, and this data is processed and a use case gets created. Now this use case could be a safety use case, efficiency use case, new service use case. So I think for the innovators, for the guys who are creating new things, this platform is ready. This trifecta is ready. I would really encourage now people to use this platform and create use cases. India, like markets, a good platform because it's a good consumption economy. Anything which is related to a entertainment or a sport or a news, I would say they lap it up. So if we can create use cases around that, I think we will be very happy to participate with them to test those for our consumers. So I encourage all the innovators and the developers to use this trifecta of cloud and analytics, IoT and lot of data APIs, and access technologies like fiber, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, 5G, 5G Advanced to create innovation.
Well said, Randeep. Thank you so much for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you.
everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Vattu from San Jose, California. In today's show, we'll learn about the overlaps between the worlds of AI and FinTech. In last few years, we have seen major leap forward in AI innovations, especially after the surge of Gen AI. At the same time, fintech technologies such as blockchain have also been evolving rapidly. Some startups are doing really interesting work in trying to use AI strengths in fintech. We are fortunate to have Victor Fang as our guest today. Victor is CEO of Anchain.ai. Anchain.ai is utilizing AI to fight financial fraud and streamline the compliance process. So, without any further delay, let's go and talk to Victor and learn from his insights. Hello, Victor. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Fasad, for inviting me here. It's amazing. And I keep hearing you are the Joe Rogan of Silicon Valley. Proud to be here.
Thank you so much. Uh, so, Victor, tell us about Anchain.ai. What is the core problem companies solving? What is unique value proposition, and what is the stage companies at right now?
So, Enchain AI, we are building the AI product to fight financial crime and streamline the compliance. It's a $3 trillion problem in the financial crime space. To quote Janet Yellen, the former Secretary of the Department of Treasury, our customer, we are living in an explosion of the risks, right, related to fraud, money laundering, terrorist financing, and all that. And then it's growing two-dimensional. One is the more and more cases and crimes, and then they're getting more and more sophisticated. And cryptocurrency is the most sophisticated right now. We started the company 2018 in Silicon Valley, right? And we laser focusing on building AI products to solve this hard problem. It's great that we already have some proven track record in the space. Like for example, we are involved in those high profile attacks when it comes to DeFi's and bridges and most recently the Bybits and all that, right? And then also another side of it is actually starting from last year, we're actually expanding the cryptocurrency crime investigation to the broader financial crime. The vision we have is the crypto crime may start with crypto, but it doesn't end with crypto. Yeah, that's the problem we're dealing with now.
I would love to hear about Bybit hack, which has literally shaken the crypto industry recently. It is the largest cybersecurity hack up to date that resulted in almost $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum. So tell us about the impacts of this on crypto industry and especially around the credibility of crypto industry and how can we counter these sort of attacks going forward in future.
Yeah. Hey, Fasal, this is a great question. It is very timely. In fact, we just wrap up and published our tech report. And then in the past 7 days, the team has been like working nonstop, right? And then also with some support from the law enforcement, our partners and all that. So, okay. Most people may heard about, I mean, last Friday, this Bybit, it's a Asian, it's based in Asia, right? The crypto exchange got hacked. And like you said, $1.5 billion of Ethereum, mostly, right? It's gone like that, like this. So, but let me share you something that most people may not know. Actually, based on our ancient AI technology, we find out 3 days ahead of the exploit that last Friday, basically last Tuesday, the malicious smart contract is already deployed on the Ethereum mainnet. Again, 3 days before the exploit. Okay, that's fascinating. I mean, to me, like those hackers, there's a lot of the intelligence are pointing to the Lazarus group, the North Korean hacker group, right? To me, based on our analysis and tactics and all that, it seems like they are very sophisticated. So it highly possible it's the Lazarus group from the North Korea, right? So 3 days ahead, right? Think about it. That's they deploy the bytecode, malicious bytecode, and the Friday they exploit it, and they call it back to that trap that they deploy 3 days ahead, right? To me, right? So this is actually another wake up call, right? This is the crypto is like based on our analysis is like $4 billion hack every year. Like last year was like $4 billion, like in DeFi and bridges and all that. So we're heavily involved in some of those high profile investigation, right? But the most recent one is the Kyber swap case that just announced by the DOJ. That's a $60 million hack, right? So it's definitely very challenging and very different to defend digital asset, cryptocurrency, DeFi, other than your banking account or your enterprise data asset, because on the blockchain for digital asset, right, deployed on the blockchain, they are money. They are asset that you can liquidate globally. You can get an asset, you may get the money here in the US, but then you can liquidate in Singapore, like, and then in like Africa or anywhere. Okay. And that's become a global problem. And that's why we're working with the global regulator like FATF. Like next month, I'm invited again, right back to the FATF Paris to present our perspective and technology around all these different new cryptocurrency crimes. And then another thing, right? So I think that with the new administrations here in the US, right, it's going to be, we're expecting to see more innovation in the cryptocurrency, the private sector adoption in the US, right? So, but again, we have to have the right technology, and right now AI is probably the only solution that works, that can defend with the more and more cases, and that's getting more and more sophisticated. And I think this Bybit case, although it happened in Asia, right, this is actually a wake-up call to the entire industry, not just in Asia, but even in the US, right? We have been working closely with our customers in the past few days. Is this entire attack actually the root cause was actually the AWS cloud being compromised, and the hacker was able to swap in the malicious JavaScript that can end up calling that malicious smart contract 3 days ahead. It's mind blowing. So we published the full report on our website. So feel free to take a look.
Victor, one of the counter argument I've heard from people is that if defenders have AI to use in their defense, attackers also have AI. So it's like fighting fire with fire, right? So do you believe that the AI which defenders will use will be more powerful, more sophisticated than the AI attackers might use?
Great question. And actually, 2 years ago in Silicon Valley, right, where I hosted the RSA Innovation dinner, right? And then we kind of, one of the panelists on my dinner, actually, David Katz from former Federal Reserve, my good friend, he also brought up the exact same question 2 years ago. The answer is AI is a technology. It's neutral. We shouldn't bet on like, hey, the hacker don't know how to use AI. That's a wrong hypothesis. It's rather to assume that, okay, so those guys now have access to the open AI, the GPT 3.5, or even the o1, o3. How can we better build a better AI to defend against it? My opinion could be biased because I always working on the white hat of the defender side, right? But to me, as enterprise solutions and all that, right? While AI knows the best about the parameters we're building. We know all the data assets. We know all the crypto wallets. And if you are a crypto exchange, we know all the different counterparty we're dealing with within my company where we deploy the Agentic AI solution or other AI solutions, right? And those are proprietary data that the hacker don't know. Actually, with the AI that deploy on premiums and then learn from proprietary data, I think we can definitely we can make the game much harder for the hacker to get in.
Cool.
Mhm.
Victor, what role do you see of AI agents in crypto and Web3 world? We are living in the age of AI agents, as you know. So I and my audience are very interested to learn about what are the top applications of AI agents in this space, and also are there any risks of using AI agents in these areas?
Wow, that's a that's $100 billion question. Okay, so I think, yeah, like you said, AI agent is the hottest technology right now in Silicon Valley. And I have a VC did a research. I think there's actually over 1,000 companies mention agentic AI. They're doing agentic AI right now, right? I mean, we are one of the little data point there. And especially after Satya, right, the Microsoft CEO, like talk about like in January, right, about like the SaaS is dead. That's not his original word, right? But he kind of hinted that, hey, anything that can be represented by CRUD, which is the database term, right, could be replaced by agentic AI. And a lot of the SaaS application are by definition CRUD, right? It's an application layer sitting on top of the data, right? To us, AI agent is a portfolio of experts good at certain verticals. For example, we have our cryptocurrency auto tracing agent and the crypto intelligence AI agent that can infer, okay, is this Bybit exchange or this is North Korea, like that, right? That's 1 billion edges out there. It's a tough problem. You have to use AI and machine learning to infer that. And then there was a smart contract AI agents there. So we built our portfolio about 16 of them. So sitting on top of that, right? And including some of them coming from the traditional finance, like we build our AI agent that can help you file SAR to the FinCEN, right? Our client, FinCEN. So we build our entire portfolio of that. AI agent is powered by the LLM and GPT. I mean, most of the LLM technology right now is a transformer-based model, the GPT. So with that, actually it increased the efficiency and the UX significantly. When I sit with my engineers and my investigators and all that, it's mind-blowing to see our AI agent prototype is actually solving those problems, the investigation problem, much more efficient, right? You still need to be the expert, or like you still need to know some basics about if the AI is doing the right thing. It's mostly because of the hallucination, okay? And that's pretty dangerous, right? If like the stuff we're doing, the investigation we're doing is very mission critical. Like some of them we have to go to the judge to present to them that this is step by step how we do this. It has to be deterministic. It should be explainable, right? If your AI, especially LLM and GPT, those models, there's a big flaw there. Is they are subject to hallucination. I know the RAG, that's why we're building RAG to help it to address that problem, right? But the GPT, the entire algorithm has that problem, that fundamental problem deep in the DNA is the hallucination, right? So that's why we still have to have a quote unquote expert sitting in the loop, the human sitting in the loop to make sure that hallucination issue is being addressed. And this would be, it would be always be a problem.
Victor, I know that you have been tracking the AI space across last many years, and that's why I want to learn about your perspective on DeepSeek. Late last year, when the DeepSeek news came from China, we all got excited about it. So tell me, what were the real surprises coming out from DeepSeek? How do you think it can impact the trajectory of AI industry going forward?
I love this question, man. So what really shocked DeepSeek is not just because its reasonings and all this capability, right? That is its on par with the closed model like I just mentioned, right? It's really, if you are following DeepSeek, that they have this DeepSeek open source week, right? This entire open source week, I learned so much. It's amazing to hear people, to like the people, the experts in the AI, like openly share about how they do it, not just like purely marketing side of it, but they actually open up the source code. And when I read those papers, I feel like, oh wow, this is actually quite fundamental, right? Those reasoning. That's one of the aspects that we feel like can actually change the hallucinations and all that, right? Because now you can see how the AI is reasoning all that with 5 steps and all that, right? So those are great innovations here, right? I would hope that with the DeepSeek being a lot more open, then OpenAI and Soropids, those closed AI foundation model companies should feel the pressure, right? And then open up more about the technology. And it's good that we will be sitting on top of all this great open source foundation model. And look, like Sam implied, right? They spent $500 million to train their foundation model. And DeepSeek in the paper, they said it's only like $5 million, right? I tend to believe that statement, right? So it's, and then they use a lot of the tricks, I would say tricks, because it's the distill model, distill from some bigger foundation models and all that, right? Of course, it would be more cost effective, but as a founder, entrepreneur, and all that, this is the golden time to build a vertical solution in the AI.
Well said, Victor. Thank you so much for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here, Pastor. And thanks for the great questions. It's really inspiring.
Awesome. Cool. You're welcome. Thank you.
Cool.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Vattu from San Jose, California. AI has been helping enterprises to increase productivity in many different ways. AI is able to do that by revolutionizing the automation space for enterprises. AI automation and its related aspects are the topics of our show today. We are fortunate to have Balakrishna DR as our guest today. Bali is Executive Vice President at Infosys. Infosys is a global IT and consulting services company headquartered in India. Infosys helps customers with digital transformation, software development, cloud computing, AI, cybersecurity, and enterprise solutions. Bali has 30 plus years of experience at Infosys and is currently leading efforts across industry verticals to increase AI adoption and automation. So, without any further delay, let's go and talk to Bali and learn from his insights. Hello, Bali. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
Doing very good, Faisal, and thanks for having me on your show.
Great. So, Bali, the concept of enterprise automation has been there for a while, and over time, organizations have reaped many benefits from it. What's new with AI-based automation? What new incremental value will be delivered with AI-based automation?
Yeah, see, traditional automation that used to be there for many years, decades now, were deterministic and rule based, right? But with the advent of agentic AI, things have actually changed. Today, agentic AI powered by LLMs, you can have a lot of autonomy in the way that you automate via context aware and decision making, dynamic adaptation, leveraging tools, language understanding, right? And then also, it is not about one agent. The multiple agents now can work together to automate end to end workflow and processes, getting data and integrating data from various sources. So, what does this all mean, right? So instead of isolated tasks like extracting information from emails, today agentic AI can automate processes, whether procurement, finance, HR. It can actually automate such complex processes end to end. And further now, with the rise of protocols that enable communication between agents like MCP, A to A, agents can work with diverse variety of tools, and they can bring in further automation at scale with across multiple enterprise functions and even outside the enterprise, right? With other enterprises, they can actually coexist, right? So today, with agentic AI, we can actually look in summary beyond the task based automation to business process based automation. A few examples is for a large professional audit company, we are looking at the end to end audit processes with the help of agent and automating that, automating customer service and troubleshooting failures in financial services organization, like automating the KYC, customer onboarding, etc. So that's, I think, is what is different from rule based to the entire business process based automation with context aware decision making, reasoning powers that are there and dynamic. So we used to talk about assistant to humans. Now it is flipped the other way. Agentic AI can do it autonomously with human in the loop to be able to verify what the agents are doing.
So, with the tremendous growth in the AI adoption and so many different options available on AI models, I'm sure there are also huge challenges around ethics, bias, and regulatory aspects of AI. How do you think AI industry as a whole can tackle this challenge, or how do you think these challenges can be addressed at the enterprise level?
So, first of all, yeah, that's a great point. And responsible AI needs to be the core design principle. What we have seen is that it can't be an afterthought. You have to be responsible from the design. And what we mean by that is that you should embed fairness, explainability, security, transparency, etc. from ground up. There are multiple levels that you have to actually apply. Technical guardrails to be able to detect and mitigate threats as input and output. But in addition, process guardrails, risk assessment, red teaming, human in the loop design frameworks, etc., to be able to manage that. And then governance guardrail. Regular audits need to be conducted and every life cycle stage of AI, especially for high impact areas like hiring or lending, etc. And this needs to be done at the industry level. Infosys has an offering called AI 3S to do that, but then we are also developed a toolkit for responsible AI that we actually open source, and there are other enterprises, organization, academic institutions that are actually contributing. So we need to actually work together to be able to build the tool sets that we can actually implement in our AI use cases to make it responsible going forward.
Yeah. So, Bali, I know that your team has been heavily engaged in the US market, and I would like to get your view on the traction of AI adoption in the US market. So, what are the main use cases and opportunities driving AI adoption in the US market?
Yeah, I think US is what we see is in the forefront of enterprise AI adoption, especially in sectors like financial services, communication, healthcare, retail. And as I mentioned before, agentic AI use cases are dominating the market. We also see demand for small language models, AI platforms to be able to scale across the organization, the responsible AI offerings that I actually talked about. And some of the most common use cases that you asked about, I think, is in customer service transformation with conversational AI and agentic AI now, knowledge management, including extracting insights from documents, manuals, etc., content generation, whether it is generating network diagrams or process documentation, marketing content, contracts, all of those things. And now more and more with agentic AI, we are seeing one of the use cases that is most prevalent is how you use agentic AI to power business process automation in shared services such as finance, marketing, HR. We also see evolution of AI as the new UI. Now, instead of having your regular screens and the way that you would actually interface with your systems of record, you could now actually use AI as the user interface through voice and multiple other touch points. The other use case that is pretty prevalent is the AI assisted software development. The entire life cycle of software development. Legacy modernization is an interesting use case. It is a lot of enterprises in the US, especially the large enterprises, have a lot of legacy that they actually deal with, sometimes even older system, mainframe systems, etc. And how you can use AI to be able to modernize these systems is another use case that we see a lot of traction in, and in IT operation. So a mix of things that we see in the IT landscape and right across multiple business functions that I spoke about.
Bali, I'm sure your organization has helped hundreds of customers in increasing the productivity, but that could also mean that certain jobs will be eliminated, or employees need to learn new skills to cope with the AI environment. So, how do you think organizations can address this challenge of reskilling their employees, in this AI age?
No, that's an extremely important point that you raised, Faisal. It can't be reactive. Even your success of what you can actually do with agentic AI, etc., all depends upon the buy-in from your employees, and so this has to be more proactive rather than reactive. As an example, identifying the emerging skills gaps early and investing in continuous learning for the employees. You need to be able to create learning paths tailored for each role. So in Infosys, we have used a combination of internal academies, hands-on labs, and then AI-led personal training paths to upskill our talent. And we have three stages of AI enablement, like we call it AI aware, AI builder, and AI masters. So programs like that. What we believe is every one of the employees needs to be aware, even if they're not actually the expert, how it actually impacts their function. And we need to create workshops, hackathons for ideation so that everybody is involved in terms of how you can actually leverage it. Internal AI focused communities where leaders can discuss the challenges, share success, and collaborate on the various different projects. So we should look at AI and we should frame it as an enabler, not as a replacement of humans. I think that is actually extremely important, and reskill the people so that they are able to do higher order tasks and not some of the manual repetitive areas. They can actually create a higher order impact by using AI tools, and that is what as enterprises we should actually focus on.
So a lot of innovation is being driven by Silicon Valley on AI and other tech hubs in US. How do you think large enterprises and companies can collaborate with this ecosystem to bring those innovations out to real world impact in industries like finance, healthcare, and manufacturing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of startups, and especially in the Silicon Valley and other innovation hubs, and it is important to be able to leverage these. And some of these startups have good ideas, they have innovative technologies, the way they've actually applied the technology, and the startup brings agility and speed. But how we leverage them, for example, in Infosys, is that we run a program which we call innovation ecosystem, where we identify these kind of startups, and then what the startups don't have access to is the customer reach. They don't have access to the data. They don't have the scale to be able to implement it across large enterprises, etc. And that is where we see a win-win relationship for our enterprise clients, for the startups and ourselves, that we actually engage with some of these startups, look at how we can scale those technologies, ideas, products that they have across large enterprises. So the enterprises win, the startup win, and then we are also actually able to provide value to both these stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Pali, for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you, Faisal. Thanks for having me again.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Vatu from San Jose, California. In today's show, our topics are quantum technology and its convergence with AI. It's our pleasure to have Orla Neri as our guest today. Orla is General Manager at Microsoft for Quantum and AI go to market and ecosystem development. Orla has 20 plus years of experience at Microsoft and is well respected in the industry for driving new business incubation and go to market initiatives for new technologies. So, without any further delay, let's go and talk to Orla and learn from her insights. Hi, Orla. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Faisal. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, Ola, so you've had a long journey at Microsoft, which spans across more than 2 decades, and you have spent most of this time incubating new businesses and driving go-to-markets for zero to one initiatives. So tell us a bit more about this journey, and also tell us about the incubation culture at Microsoft.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. And you're aging me now, Faisal, 2 decades. It's like an eternity. But I guess I started my career at Microsoft actually in engineering, localization engineering. And I wanted to get more into the sales and marketing side of the business. So I started working as a speechwriter for one of the VPs on the cutting edge of developer technologies. And so from there, I had a great sponsor in my manager, and I've been really focused with her and the team for almost 2 decades on growing businesses, either mature businesses, right, like Visual Studio, SQL Server, to I guess in the last decade, Faisal, has been more focused on incubating, like you said, new businesses. And so I feel really fortunate to have had a front row seat to introducing new technologies like Microsoft AI and now quantum. And I guess in terms of how I got an opportunity to do this, I think that speaks to the culture at Microsoft, right? You don't really have to be an engineer to be on the front row of innovation at Microsoft. It really is an interdisciplinary approach to creating and developing innovation. And I don't think many people know actually that Microsoft has an actual research department. So Microsoft Research has been around for about 30 years. And actually, Quantum is, I think it's the longest running research program. So, in terms of not just having an interdisciplinary approach to innovation, I think it's perseverance too, right? And the willingness at Microsoft to play the long game. Inside of Microsoft, we also are encouraged, with this concept of like ideas can come from anywhere across the organization. So hackathons are a big deal at Microsoft, where folks from across the org and across teams can come together to have sprints around developing ideas and figuring out if it has any business viability. And then outside the hackathons, we actually have a program. It's like an incubator program called Microsoft Garage or Garage. Because I'm Irish, it's garage versus garage. And so Microsoft Garage, where you can go and like it means you can tinker around with your ideas and invite people to help you with it. So it's somewhat unique to have this freedom to ideate, to dream. And then if you have the courage, the perseverance, the resilience to advocate for new paths, that's tough too, being the first to ask your boss, hey, look, I have this idea. I know we're spending all our money over here, but any chance that we could spend money here? And here's my thought. I mean, it's a tough road, but it is one that I think has been super rewarding, at least for me. Full of risk, to be on the cutting edge of stuff that may or may not pan out, but a ton of reward and a ton of learning.
Very exciting. A lot of people are not familiar with what quantum computing is, right? So for those listeners, can you briefly tell us what are the key differences between quantum computing and traditional computing in practical terms?
Gosh, no, by no means am I a physicist. So, for your listeners, warning, this is not a master class in quantum. But for me, I guess I've been working on quantum for the last 3 years. And when I first started on it, I was just blown away by the brain power in the room. It has been really fascinating and just such a privilege to work with some of these most renowned physicists in the world. And so what they're working on is their lifelong passion, right? Quantum computing, because there is a promise that quantum can solve some of the world's most, difficult challenges like climate control, new drugs to prevent diseases or cure diseases and stuff like that. And so the difference is the speed at which quantum can potentially solve problems. And so classical computing, I think all your listeners will understand that has bits, right? You can either be a 0 or 1. So a bit like a GPS, like you have to follow step-by-step instructions, go down this route, then this route, then this route. For quantum, throw the GPS out, because a qubit can be both a 0 and a 1 at the same time. That's called a state of superposition. You can be in both states at the same time. But what makes quantum even more powerful is that the qubits can be connected no matter their distance. And that's called entanglement. And so what that means practically is that in quantum, it's essentially like having an amazing, highly communicative team that can explore many routes and many options at the same time. So if you think about things like drug discovery, where it's a really, really complex problem, but there's a narrow set of data or somewhat narrow set of data, you can explore all the different paths to get to your result much faster than a classical computer can ever get to that solution. So therefore, it creates new opportunities for businesses, for individuals, for humanity. And like what I'm most excited about between classical and quantum is that convergence, and I know we're going to talk about it in a wee bit, but that convergence of AI and quantum working together in this great symbiotic relationship where one benefits from the other, that will unlock a whole new world of possibilities. And I like today, I mean, I could talk about some use cases, but the honest truth is, like, we don't know all the use cases for quantum yet, much like we didn't know all the use cases for AI. Like the explosion in generative AI and how people are using Gen AI now, I didn't dream of all these different possibilities. So I'm so excited about, this hybrid future that we're on the cusp of realizing.
Mhm. So yeah, definitely, we are very excited about the innovations that could come from quantum computing and technologies. But what stage quantum is at right now,
Yeah.
and what are some of the industries which will benefit from it before the others?
Yeah, definitely ton of hype. As with any new technology, there's a lot. We saw a lot of hype around AI. We see a lot of hype around quantum. It has been in the news a ton, even more recently, Microsoft made a discovery of a new state of matter, which helped us create the new Majorana 1 chip. And so whilst there is hype out there, the science is real, and the outcomes that the scientists are creating, they are absolutely real. The business outcomes will come, but they're not quite there yet. So it's very early days for quantum. There's a lot of debate as to when quantum will actually be useful. But most folks would say we're putting it at about 2030, if not sooner. So right now, my focus is on readiness, on readying an ecosystem for the potential of quantum. And so we launched a program called Quantum Ready in January to help our customers and non-customers get ready for a quantum AI future. And in part, that was inspired by our experience with AI when the team worked on AI. So one of the things that helped AI be successful was customers were ready to embrace it and adopt it, which involves when you're introducing a new technology that isn't just a new technology, it's a completely new paradigm shift, like AI was and like quantum will be. It requires a new culture in your organization, a culture that can break down silos, bring data together from all different parts of the organization, bring SMEs together from all different parts of the organization to help solve problems. And quantum requires similar type of culture to embrace it. So we're really trying to dial up our awareness and education efforts with customers. We're also trying to strengthen the ecosystem. So competition is great. Microsoft always embraces competition. And so we work with our competition. We work with partners on the hardware side. We're working with academia as well, where we're investing in research in various universities around the world. And we're working with government as well to ensure that the ecosystem is being built, it's thriving, and it's ready to scale quantum as it becomes more and more a reality. Maybe one more thing I'd say there is around the path, right? So not only are we working to educate customers, we're also helping bring together AI and HPC to help in a sort of a quantum inspired way, help customers realize new value and therefore help society and economies realize new values. So we're working with Pacific Northwest Laboratory on AI and HPC together to use AI to, like, there was about 32 million candidates for new electrolytes, and we dwindled it down to one candidate for an electrolyte that can potentially help replace lithium and create more sustainable, batteries. It was a fascinating body of work. What could have taken years and years and years of research, we were able to get down to under a year to get to that discovery of that new candidate for the battery material. So if you think about quantum, when quantum is real, pretty exciting in terms of the new drugs that could be discovered, new ways in which we can help climate control, new ways in which we can help sustainability.
Yeah, it was very interesting to learn that AI may accelerate the availability and readiness of quantum, right? But I would like to dive a little deeper on the convergence of AI and quantum. I know you briefly mentioned
Yeah.
few use cases, but what are some of the innovations or use cases that can come from the convergence of the two, quantum and AI?
Faisal, that's a great question. And so I think AI is really good at large data sets and in detecting patterns, right, in that data. What quantum's really good at is taking really complex problems and finding an outcome or a solution super fast. So in terms of applications, think about drug discovery, think about finance. One of the big things is post-quantum cryptography. I was at a conference last week and I was talking to one of the ladies in Airbus, and they're looking at quantum for route optimization. So huge complexity in figuring out all the various routes, right? And so they're looking at quantum's potential to help them really optimize routes. As much as quantum will create new value, it also creates risk because the existing encryption methods that we're all using, to protect our data, our healthcare data, and all sorts of personal data is traditional encryption methods, which will become, once quantum becomes a reality, those typical encryption methods just won't stand up. And so really a big use case for quantum is on the flip side of that, is helping customers prepare for cybersecurity attacks by creating and adopting PQC standards and getting ready now for that. So that's a big part of what we're also doing with our partners in the Quantum Safe program. So finance, healthcare, drug discovery, route optimization, sustainability, climate, and then who knows where else quantum and AI together will lead us with more and more use cases. But they're the ones that I'm the most familiar with right now.
Thank you very much, Orla, for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Oh my goodness, I hope so. Like I said, I'm by no means, an expert in quantum. My expertise comes in introducing new technology to the market, and I've been on an amazing learning journey with the quantum program. And I'm thankful to all of the scientists at Microsoft, for all of their incredible work and for the ecosystem as well. And Faisal, thank you so much for the opportunity today to share some of my thoughts on a quantum AI future. And I hope your listeners will find some value in it. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks again. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go-to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Wattu from Santa Clara, California. In today's show, we will learn about software development landscape for large hardware companies and also explore innovation opportunities in this space due to advanced technologies like AI. We are fortunate to have Vanitha Kumar as our guest today. Vanitha is Senior Vice President of Software Engineering at Qualcomm. She has over 25 years of experience in telecom industry and embedded software design, architecture, and development. In her current role at Qualcomm, she is leading modem and connectivity software technology teams across 5G, 4G, WLAN, Bluetooth, satellite tech, wireless machine learning, Gen AI, and automotive. So without any further delay, let's go and talk to Vanitha and learn from her insights. Hi, Vanitha. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
Doing very good. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Great. So, Vanitha, Qualcomm is one of the pioneer companies in the semiconductor space. And a lot of people know Qualcomm as a very hardware-centric company. So, can you share the scope and objectives of software development?
Yeah. So, yes, it is true. Qualcomm is known as a semiconductor company, and we have a broad range of chipset offering through our Snapdragon line and our Dragonwing line of chipset offerings across many different verticals. But what is important to know is with all of these chipsets, we provide a fully optimized software stack that kind of goes with it, right? This is fully integrated commercial software that's fully qualified, goes through all the certification, compliance tests, regulatory testing, all of that. For example, if you're talking about like a wireless IP, the software that we offer is like fully spec compliant, baseband and RF co-optimized solution that meets all the operator requirements, is tested in many parts of the world. Similarly, we have highly optimized software for all our IPs like camera, graphics, multimedia. And then on top of that, we provide a full software stack for AI so that our customers can use our highly powerful AI processors and a whole range of SDKs. And as we get into more new verticals and markets, it's actually very important for us that we make our software stack very developer friendly, so that in some of these verticals, it's very important that our OEMs are able to develop solutions with very little to no code, so that we can make our product as complete as possible to our end OEMs.
So, as you know, we are living in the AI age right now, and pretty much every single industry segment is trying to figure out how they should benefit from AI. So, how is Qualcomm planning to leverage AI in software development for internal processes and building better products for your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I said, we are expanding into so many different verticals, and it's actually very important for us that we do that in a very cost-conscious manner, right? So we are all in that pressure to be able to do more with less, right? So it's extremely important for us to use AI, in every aspect of our development cycle. And when we look at AI for our internal efficiency, we are not just looking at using AI just for coding assistant. We are looking at how we can use AI pretty much through our entire software development lifecycle, right? I'm talking about how do you consume requirements better? How do you do customer support better? How do you do better bug tracking, log analysis, all of those things. So it's important for us that we use AI that is kind of fully integrated in every aspect of our software development lifecycle, and that's kind of how we are approaching it. And the second part of it is like all our traditional algorithms, right? That our solutions that we actually have, on our phone, we are trying to see how we can make it better using AI. So we now have AI enhanced 5G, AI enhanced Wi-Fi solutions, so that we are really able to offer highly efficient, competitive products and have better user experience out of all these things. On top of it, we actually have AI processors as part of our chipset offerings, special IPs for AI acceleration. And we have full AI stack and SDKs through which OEMs who develop their own applications can now make use of these co-processors to make their solutions and their applications kind of optimized for Snapdragon chipsets.
Moving along, we are hearing a lot about AI on edge. What sort of innovation trends are happening in that space? How does software versus hardware play a role in enabling those innovations? And for our audience, if you can briefly share, what is AI on edge?
So in the last decade or so, I would say there has been a couple of interesting technological trends that has actually led us to this moment when we talk about AI on edge. One is basically the revolution in just mobile connectivity, right? As we move from 4G to 5G era, we have gigabits of data connectivity capability on our devices, and we have low latency communication that is now possible. On the other hand, we have had this massive revolution with AI, with generative AI models that can now run on small devices in a very performance efficient manner. And you put these two together, now you have on your hand devices that have tremendous amount of computing capability and very near instant communication to the cloud because of the high speed connectivity. You kind of have these powerful use cases where you have devices that can be very, very smart, can run a lot of AI processing, and be in a position to refer back to the cloud when necessary. So that kind of opens up a whole new case of hybrid intelligence as well as edge intelligence, where in algorithms that require immediacy, privacy, low latency decisions, you can run a lot of those AI algorithms pretty much on your device, and then you can kind of refer back to the cloud. You can outsource to the cloud, when you need access to the big data that's only stored on the cloud, or you need to do training, or you need to do some communication that can afford that longer latency. So that really opens up a lot of new applications and new use cases that were really not possible before. So coming to the second part of the question in terms of the hardware software integration, one of the nice things about companies like Qualcomm, we've traditionally been focusing on doing highly optimized hardware software for complex technologies like wireless communications. Now we are able to kind of extend that leverage and apply that to AI as well. We have highly optimized hardware offerings, hardware accelerators for AI, and we are able to have the ability to quantize the models to run efficiently on the hardware and be in a position to offer full stacks and SDKs so that our customers can actually make use of this hardware so that they can provide differentiating AI solutions to really capitalize on the AI on the edge use cases.
So, Vanita, every 10 years, we have this new cellular generation. Early 2000s, we had 3G. Then after 2010, we moved to 4G, and now we are in the 5G phase. So what are some of the key software-driven innovations that will define the future of 5G and 6G?
So if you actually look at from the network side, right, there's already a lot of software-defined radio trends, right, with all the virtualization and the cloudification of the network itself. But one of the key things that's happening as we move from 5G to 6G, right, even in 5G, for example, the network provides a lot of the parameters, and usually the device obeys those parameters. And for the most part, the applications kind of work around the underlying technology, right? The applications are kind of optimized for Wi-Fi or cellular connectivity. That's generally been the trend so far. But now with AI and connectivity in this symbiotic mode, moving forward in 6G, we are having a paradigm shift in terms of thinking, hey, is it fair that the applications adapt to the network, or should the network now adapt to the user experience? If you now think about the problem in a different way, now you are talking about, on the network side, networks that are constantly self-learning, that are kind of aware of what the other networks are doing, what is the loading like, and dynamically adapt stuff. On the device is no longer maybe just dealing with one parameter, but like a range of parameters, so that the device can decide based on the user experience, how do I set these parameters? How do I behave in this network based on the radio conditions or based on the quality of service required by the user? What is the optimal set of parameters under which I operate so that I provide the best possible user experience? And then outside of the QoS, another thing that 6G is going to be doing, pretty much from the get-go, is making the protocol stack more optimal for all the different types of verticals, including satellite use cases, including massive IoT use cases, automotive, broadcast, everything. So that way, the standard inherently provides provisions and parameters, thinking about all these different verticals so that the user experience can be paramount.
You had a long and successful career at Qualcomm. I got a chance to work with you, and I witnessed your awesome progression as a leader in Qualcomm. So what advice you will give to young aspirational software engineers who want to pursue their careers in deep tech company like Qualcomm?
I would say topmost thing that any engineer needs is pretty much like a growth mindset, right? Because technology industry moves very, very fast. So it is very important to be committed to be a student throughout, right? You have to be invested in learning throughout your career, because that's the only way to really keep up with the technology and how fast it really moves. So the commitment to be a lifelong student, I think, is a very important one. And another important thing is, as a student, people are focused on, hey, your grades, and it's all about the individual. But that's not how corporate successes are made. You kind of work together as a team. Being able to work with multiple people, collaborate, and create that environment where the whole is better than the sum is extremely important. So to really come in with that growth mindset and the collaborative mindset, I think that can really make a world of difference.
Well said, Vanita. Thank you so much for joining our show.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go-to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Bhattu from San Jose, California. In today's show, we'll talk about enterprise AI opportunities around self-hosted AI, where enterprises develop and own AI capabilities instead of accessing already developed AI models by third-party providers. We are fortunate to have Mariam Arik as our guest today. Mariam is CEO and co-founder of Double World, a promising startup based in UK with a vision to provide seamless and secure infrastructure for enterprise AI developments. Mariam was recognized as Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree for her contributions in the AI space. So without any further delay, let's go and talk to Mariam and learn from her insights. Hi Mariam, welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks again for joining us. So Mariam, tell us about the opportunity space around self-hosted AI. While there are many third-party providers who are able to provide access to top-notch, already developed AI models, why do enterprises even need to self-host AI?
Well, I often think about self-hosting versus using API providers, kind of like the decision between if you're going to rent a house or if you're going to buy a house. And when you first move into an area, you're trying out a new location, maybe I'm moving to a new city, then I'll probably want to rent for a couple months, like using an API provider, to see if I really like the space. But in the long term, what everyone does really is they want to buy a place. They want something that they can own, that can't be taken away from them. From the enterprise setting, if I'm building mission critical applications on top of this AI, I need to make sure that I control it. I know exactly where my data is going and that I have complete independence from other people. So even though for POCs and, when you're first trying out AI, it might be a good idea to rent and use a third-party API provider. In the long term for enterprises, self-hosting and having that control and independence is paramount and is going to become increasingly more important. Gartner recently released something that said, in the long term, by 2028, 20% of enterprises will be self-hosting their models. So at the moment, it's mainly regulated industries, but going forward, it's going to be a large fraction of businesses that are choosing to really control and own their AI using great open source models or customized or fine-tuned models as well.
Makes sense. Businesses having more control on their AI seems compelling. However, self-hosting and owning these AI capabilities also have some challenges. For example, enterprises need more technical expertise. They might miss out on fast-paced innovations driven by third-party providers, or the upfront costs might be higher for enterprises. So, what do you think about these challenges?
It's a great point. And going back to the renting versus owning analogy, it's a lot of effort to own a house, right? You're responsible for the maintenance. You've got to go through lengthy legal agreements to actually purchase the house, and so it's a lot of effort to own a house, and it's a lot of effort if you're kind of doing it yourself to self-host your AI. You have to build a huge amount of infrastructure to serve and monitor those kinds of models. In fact, you're essentially reproducing an entire department at OpenAI full of specialists in every single enterprise, which is an incredibly expensive thing to do. It's also very high stakes if it goes wrong. If you're self-hosting and your API goes down in the middle of the night, then you're in big, big trouble. And that's exactly the bridge that we cross at Double Word, is we want to make self-hosting AI as easy to use as using an API provider. And so our clients get all of the benefits of having the control over their AI, having independence, knowing that it's deployed in their environment and the data's not going anywhere. They have all of the benefit of that, but they don't have any of the burden of having to build the stack, having to maintain the stack, having to update it when a new model comes out, and all of those things. So we're really trying to reduce that trade-off between the renting, i.e. using a third-party API provider, and the buying of actually owning your AI and controlling your AI. And we want to make it as easy to own your AI as it would be to just use a third-party provider.
Can you tell us specifically what product you are offering for your customers and how is it solving the core problem around self-hosted AI as we discussed earlier?
So what we offer is a self-hosted AI inference platform. And what that actually is it's essentially all of the technology that you need to actually be able to self-host your language models. And not just language models, embedding models, all AI models. And that's comprised of a bunch of different layers. So you have at your very lowest layers, your inference engine. Then we have our scaling layer, which makes sure that we, scale up to more GPUs when we need it and scale down. Then we have our logging and monitoring layer. And then also our management layer around that. So there's a lot of different layers involved in our product. From our client's perspective, though, what they actually care about is at the end of the day, our product produces high quality, scalable AI APIs that they can build applications on top of. They don't need to worry about what's going on under the hood. They don't need to worry about what inference engine we're using or anything like that. But what they get is the reassurance that they can, with a couple clicks, deploy whatever AI model they're interested in, get an AI API that will scale with them, that is cost effective, that is low latency, that they can build on top of. And so we're essentially completely removing the kind of the burden of having to think about how you build that stack and just turning it instead of to, I want to deploy this model. Okay, I've deployed that model privately in my environment, and now I have an API that I can build on top of.
Can you give us some example of end-to-end use cases which your product is enabling for enterprises?
Yeah, so essentially anything that you can build with third-party AI API providers, you can build with our product. One kind of really nice use case that I see a lot is around document intelligence and large-scale document intelligence. So some things that open source models are really, really good at is, for example, visual understanding. And with visual understanding models, you can, instead of using something like OCR, look at a document and be able to really understand that document, extract charts and tables, and be able to actually understand it in the way that a human would. And so we see a lot of use cases which are built around this document intelligence and document processing using these kinds of models. Other common use cases that we see are use cases that involve fine-tuning or domain-specific models. One big advantage of when you might want to self-host versus using a generic third-party AI model is if you're in a domain that has a lot of domain expertise. So in, for example, pharmaceutical is a great example. So we have clients in the pharma space who are deploying fine-tuned AI models that can much better understand their particular domain and their particular remit, and leads to much better results than something like GPT-4 or something like that. So although the use cases we support are essentially anything that AI can support because we're providing these AI APIs, use cases that I'm particularly excited about are around document intelligence and also for domains where they have domain-specific knowledge and language.
I noticed that you had a name change recently from Titan ML to DoubleWord. What does the new name signify?
So there's two reasons. There's two reasons why we really loved the name DoubleWord. The first one is when the company started, before ChatGPT, we actually came out of PhD research, and we were interested in researching ways to compress deep learning models and also data type compression. And DoubleWord is a data type, and that was a really nice signal back to kind of our origins and where we started. We also really liked the idea that DoubleWord has word in the name. And the reason why is because we really strongly believe that we're in a paradigm shift of how we interact with computers and how we interact with the intelligence that's locked in with computers. It used to be, and I guess still kind of is, that we interact through code, and that's quite an elite thing. There aren't, even though, probably all of us are engineers, not many people in the world are engineers and can really interact with computers at a really deep level. But we're seeing increasingly that the interface to computers and the interface to intelligence will actually be words. And that's really exciting because that's incredibly accessible. And I think that will really democratize a lot of things going forward. So double word, we liked the name. It harked back to our research days. And also we think it signifies the change that we're seeing in terms of how we interact with intelligence.
Miriam, I know that you have been tracking the AI space in general closely. So, what do you think about how enterprise AI space is shaping up in next few years, and how is your company planning for it?
Yeah. So I think Dataiku recently released a study that said 74% of enterprise CEOs fear being fired in the next 2 years if they can't deliver on AI. That's a huge amount, and that's a huge amount of pressure. And every single enterprise CEO management board are facing this kind of pressure of having to deliver with AI. And so we see people moving really, really quickly to try and get something out the door, to try and get POCs, something they can shout about or write a press release about. And we've been seeing that last year and this year. We're going to continue seeing that more and more because these leadership will continue to feel that pressure. But what we're going to start seeing more and more, and we've started it seeing this year and 26 and 27, is going from just deliver AI at all costs, just deliver AI POCs, to we should do this properly. Of we need to think about long term. Do we want our AI to be controlled within our own environment? Do we want to have AI that we're renting from a third party, or if it's mission critical, do we want to actually deploy that locally? So we think there's this trend from we need to have AI at all costs to we still need to innovate really, really quickly, but we also need to make sure we're doing this all properly and acting in the long-term interests of our AI strategies.
I noticed that you had a really exciting announcement with Snowflake recently. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so we've been working with Snowflake for a while, and we have a number of mutual customers. And the announcement is that our product, Double Word, will be available on the Snowflake marketplace. So Snowflake clients will be able to go and download it and try it out on their own use cases. And the biggest use case we're driving with this new app is we will enable Snowflake users to access essentially hundreds of thousands of AI models that they couldn't access before. So within Snowflake, they have this fantastic service called Cortex, where they serve the most popular AI models. But for some domains like healthcare, manufacturing, or finance, where actually you need something a bit more domain specific, you need something that really understands your language, maybe it's very, very, very niche, your use case might not be served by this big generic models, but actually you'll need something very specific. And what we will enable you to do is take any model from Hugging Face, including fine-tuned versions that you might have fine-tuned privately, and deploy them in Snowflake where your data lives. So we're making it's a really fantastic partnership. It's a genuine example of we're better together. And we think it's going to be really impactful for our joint Snowflake users.
Definitely seems very exciting. Thank you so much, Miriam, for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go-to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Vatu from San Jose, California. Networking is the backbone of internet. Thanks to all the groundbreaking innovations in networking that we are reaping the benefits of internet we see today. In today's show, we will learn about latest innovation trends in networking and especially how it overlaps with AI. We are fortunate to have Shekhar Iyer as our guest today. Shekhar is CEO of Arcus. Arcus is a software company based in Silicon Valley that provides scalable, high performance network solutions for data centers, service providers, and edge cloud networks. So without any further delay, let's go and talk to Shekhar and learn from his insights. Hello, Shekhar. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Faisal.
Great. So, Shekhar, tell us about the core problem Arcus is solving and how is it differentiated from traditional networking players like Cisco, Juniper, and players like DriveNets?
Sure. The core problem really is one where, if you think about what's happening in the landscape around us, there are so many different applications that are coming to the forefront, driven by things like cloud computing and now AI. And all of these things are geographically distributed across the globe. And for about 2 decades or now, we have been really well served by this concept called the web or the internet that has provided good point to point connectivity. However, the requirements of the new applications that are driven by massive large scale AI and cloud computing require a completely different form of network architecture and infrastructure. So that's the problem that we address at Arcus, where we said we're going to kind of invent ground up a networking fabric and a layer that's super efficient, and then bring that to our customers. And our customers could be cloud providers, colo providers, hyperscalers, telecom carriers, and enterprises in the form of next generation routing and switching. Now, how this is different from the incumbent vendors like Cisco and Juniper and Arista, Huawei, etc., are those companies are really built on creating purpose-built routing switching solutions for customers for different points in their network. They're actually not motivated or focused to providing a single software layer architecture that can be one common platform across multiple different underlying hardware form factors or even vendors. On the flip side, we've got players like DriveNets, IP Infusion, etc., who are also, like us, working on a disaggregated architecture where they're working on the software with multiple hardware providers. The difference there is they're focused on one application or one use case or a business model that is much more targeted at just kind of OEMing their technology. Whereas we are focused on multiple use cases, multiple customer segments in a way in which we can have a very simple abstraction that allows our entire customer base to use Arcus as this common networking platform that gives them tremendous benefit in terms of both performance as well as cost.
Shekhar, tell us about the distributed AI. What use cases are enabled by distributed AI and what sort of challenges enterprises face when they try to enable scenarios with distributed AI?
What is turning out to be a shift in AI is that the focus is moving from training to inferencing. And simply speaking, inferencing is the ability to take the trained model and actually use it for something useful. So whether it's an autonomous driving car that is making a decision on whether or not to pass an intersection, or if it is a financial trading application that is actually making a decision on whether to place a trade or not. These are all inferences that are drawn at the endpoints, at the edges, at the points of these decisions. And those decision points are actually distributed in the network architecture or globally. So training can be done taking one giant rack or data center, putting a lot of GPUs in it, and just kind of doing a lot of compute over a period of time to train the model. But inferencing requires that you take the results of that training, send it out to the points where you're making a decision, and actually make those smart decisions. Now, this puts into focus why distributed architecture and distributed networking is important, because you have to take that trained model and pull that result out to the endpoints. Second, at the endpoint, you have to decide how much of training you want to do right there versus go back to the mothership and refer to that and come back. Third, every time you are actually inferencing, you may have done something right or wrong, and you need to take that information and then use that back to train the model. Now, all this can be done only if you have an efficient fabric that is really linking all these points together in a way in which everything can be done, and it needs to be done with great accuracy and with like whatever split microsecond latency. So this is why the infrastructure now needs to be distributed. And without that, you really don't have a successful model inferencing algorithm that you can actually execute for useful purposes for enterprises as well as consumers.
Speaking of networking and AI, if you see networking, it's mission critical service because anything breaks in networking, the whole
Yeah,
network goes down. On the other
right.
hand, AI is about prediction, and we all know that AI models can hallucinate. So,
Yeah.
from that perspective, networking and AI seems to be contradictory to each other. So, in your view, how can AI play a role in networking, especially agentic AI?
Sure. I mean, at the outset, I'd like to explain that there are two sort of interconnections between AI and networking. One is the use of networking in order to create and deploy better AI. Now, this question that you're asking me now is the reverse. It's how do you actually use AI to benefit networking in a way in which the ills of AI, if you will, are not actually coming back to bite us when we start using them for networking. So here I would say, first of all, as with any new technology, it will improve. So of course, there are problems with AI. There are the occasional things around how results are not exactly what people want or hallucinations and so on. But as the adoption continues and as people use this more and more, these problems are going to get solved. Now, when you start using that AI for networking, you can start doing things like more intelligent inferencing, better predictive algorithms for understanding how networks are going to perform, when are faults going to happen, and proactively start correcting them. Or for that matter, even just simply enabling a router to go and change its path based on some of the learning algorithms that it has access to. There is going to be a tremendous amount of benefit of using AI for better networking. And we're going to start seeing how agents and the use of agents and agentic AI can actually be helpful for network creation, network management, network monitoring, and as well as network fault detection and correction.
Shikhar, I know that Arcus also engages in providing solutions for 5G. So normally people know 5G as a wireless service that provides higher data speeds on cellular for mobile devices. So
Right.
what role networking plays in 5G and edge computing?
Sure, of course. 5G as a technology is really the fifth generation of mobile infrastructure, protocols, etc. And now people are talking about 6G, and there's a transition in terms of each of these waves of mobile technology going to the next one. I think why we are at a once again at a bit of an inflection point and crossroads with 5G is we as consumers are not just going to pay more for our cell phone service from our providers like Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile just because they're going to go from 5G to 6G. We're expecting some magic to happen. Now, that magic that happens in these network infrastructure technologies is because of the kind of work that we at Arcus are doing. So, for example, we're working on a technology called SRv6. And segment routing v6 is now being coupled with the mobile infrastructure as well as the fixed wireless infrastructure in order to enable that infrastructure to deliver more services with greater granularity, quality of service, and ability to tune, for example, the bandwidth allocated to different services. So, this is how we take concepts like network slicing and deliver that on top of the 5G network. Now, as you look at that transition going from 5G onwards to 6G, this is going to become even more interesting because we're going to be able to combine the mobile infrastructure, the fixed wireless infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure, as well as the enterprise on-premise infrastructure, bring all that together, and then layer on top of it a common networking abstraction so that if you are, for example, trying to do something in the form of smart AI inferencing at the edges, then that can benefit from best in class routing and switching that happens over your cellular infrastructure, that happens over your fixed wireless connection points, the cloud, as well as your own data centers. And that is in turn is then going to give the carriers and service providers more ability to go in and command a premium for their networks compared to what they are trying to do today.
Shekhar, we saw an announcement recently with NVIDIA. So can you tell us more about, what are you working on with NVIDIA and how will that benefit your customers?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, for most of the viewers here, you would have heard of NVIDIA as a company that's obviously a pioneer in AI and pioneer in GPUs for AI. What is probably a lesser known component of NVIDIA is how they are also influencing the networking landscape. And that is where we're working in close partnership with NVIDIA in order to enable that to happen in a faster, better way. So, as an example, we announced a switch called the TGAX, a telco grade AI switch. And the idea there is for operators who are looking at putting the right kind of switches into their edges so that those switches can help the operators deliver network services, monetize them, and then also pull in AI infrastructure and then offer AI as a service from their edges. That is enabled by this form of a switch that we released in partnership with NVIDIA. We have also talked about and announced how Arc OS, our operating system, works on top of both the Spectrum silicon from NVIDIA as well as the Bluefield DPUs from NVIDIA. Then when you think about efficiency of your AI infrastructure, you want to limit the use of your NVIDIA GPU compute to only the maximum requirements or LLMs and algorithms that require that kind of high performance and high cost computing. And we can help there because what we can do is using Arc OS, we can run that on an NVIDIA Bluefield DPU, take away some of the network functions like IPsec from burdening the GPU, and then run that on top of the DPU. And that then frees up costly GPU cycles for you to actually put that to use with more efficient LLM computing. So this is the kind of architecture where you can get 30 to 40% improvement in things like efficiency, performance, cost reduction, power consumption, all of which are actually going to become very, very important and critical problems as people are deploying more and more AI.
Cool. Thank you so much, Shekhar, for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you for having me, and wonderful to share some thoughts on this podcast.